Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and we got a lot to go over for this last episode. It was like a two-part episode in one. Uh, we start out with going back in the 1600s. There's a murder. A guy rides his horse to a estate, and he drinks wine and stares at a painting. I believe this is the painter that Tom is really enamored of, but I don't know, I was having trouble following this part. Guess I'm not as astute as I think I was. Then we cut back to modern day Venice. Or no, it's a modern day Rome, where Ravini contacts Palermo because Dickie never showed up for his meeting, and they can't find him in Rome. The detective in Palermo investigates and discovers Dickie had cashed in a lot of traveler's checks and booked passage to Tunis. Checking with the desk clerk, he learns that Dickie seemed rather distraught and upset and depressed when he left. He's speculating he's either in Africa or he jumped overboard to kill himself on the way. Meanwhile, both Tom and Marge read that Dickie is wanted for the killing of Freddie. Tom leases a big mansion under his own name. Then, taking his passport to the police, he reveals he is Tom Ripley, the man the police suspect Dickie may have killed. They contact Ravini. Well, he wants to talk to Tom. So they hold his passport, and he is to wait for Ravini to reappear, or to question him. This has Tom worried. Then, while flipping through a book of paintings of his favorite painter, he comes to the realization: light and shadow. That's what he needs to work with. So he pulls all the drapes in his living room, dims the lamps, and then positions them strategically. And he goes out. Now, earlier he had bought a replacement ashtray for the one he left behind in Rome, because he really likes it. And on this trip, he goes to a fashion house and buys a wig. And with scissors and glue, gives himself a beard, mustache, and a different hairstyle. Then he meets Ravini. Well, he's in a bit of shadow and everything, and they discuss things, and he says he left Dickie in Palermo. I assumed he had gone back to be with Marge, and he didn't realize anything until he saw in the paper that he was suspected of killing himself. And so he wanted to contact the authorities to let them know that no, he was fine and he had not been killed. In a bit of a callback to the earlier episode, Ravini smokes a cigarette and puts it out in the same type of ashtray that had been in Dickie's apartment. Okay. Well, the next day Marge shows up. After Ripley has been revealed to be alive, he gets invited to a party from a count. And he goes and he finds that all they want to talk about is the juicy gossip about Dickie Greenleaf. Can Tom give any insights? He's a little disgusted by these people, but he does meet a man named Reeves, who very cryptically says that he is a art dealer, much like Tom. An art dealer can recognize an art dealer. gives him his card in case he ever needs anything. Then Marge arrives. Now at this point, Tom has grown a slight mustache and a thin beard. Something he's trying. Marge is shocked at the place he's renting. And she kind of asks him flippantly, who died? And he lies and says his aunt died and left him a small inheritance. He's rented it for 6 months. It was kind of cheap because it's off season. She apologizes. He invites her to stay. She informs him that Greenleaf is in Venice. He really wants to talk to Tom. He gets another invitation. He doesn't really want to go. All he wants to do is gossip about Dickie and kind of pump him for information. But Marge, she wants to go, so he reluctantly goes. She gets drunk. He's really hating these people. Much like his view of Dickie and Marge and everyone else, they don't deserve what they have. But he finally convinces Marge to go with him. And she convinces him to take a gondola back. Well, he doesn't have the key to that side of the villa. And he has to go around to the other entrance. He kind of jumps a fence and the thing. And he's a little peeved at her because she keeps calling him Tommy. Nobody calls me Tommy. He doesn't like the fact that everybody is Dickie, Freddie, Tommy. No, he's Tom. And before he lets her in, he kind of contemplates, he's kind of drunk. What if she accidentally slipped on the moss on the canal side of the brickwork and fell in and drowned? There's been too many deaths already. Third one might be a little too much. So he lets her in, puts her in a spare room where Dickie's typewriter is under the bed, but she doesn't find it the next morning. She does run into a problem. One of her bra straps comes apart, and in going through a box that looks like a knitting box to find a needle and thread, she finds Dickie's ring. She confronts Tom about it. And he says, well, Dickie gave it to me in Palermo to keep for him. And then he picks up the ashtray and he's kind of walking towards her, and then she suddenly blurts out, "Oh God, I couldn't believe it's true. The only reason he would give that to you is if he did plan to kill himself. He must have killed Freddie. Oh my God." Well, puts the ashtray back. This is more than he could hope for. She insists he talk to Mr. Greenleaf about this. So he goes to Mr. Greenleaf, who has that very same private detective from the first episode with him. He's been investigating all this for him. And he asks to see Tom alone. The story Tom's giving him just doesn't add up. He wants to know what's really going on. So Tom tells the private detective, while they were on the boat to Palermo, at Palermo that they rented, Dickie professed his love for Tom. And Tom rather cruelly, in his mind, refused his advances. Then he let him back off at shore, and he always assumed Tom returned the boat. He doesn't know how it ended up where it did. And the detective says, so that's why Dickie killed himself. Then they go back in with Greenleaf, and the PI has the letter that Tom wrote as Dickie and sent to his landlady. in Rome, and it's in Italian. So he has Tom. He'd gotten this from Ravini, and he has Tom read it translation to Mr. Greenleaf, and it very much reads like a suicide note. Well, Greenleaf is devastated, but he has to accept it. He can't believe Dickie would kill Freddy and then himself, but he must have been overcome with guilt and Tom's rejection. At the train station, when they're leaving, Mr. Greenleaf gives Tom Dickie's ring. He feels he would have wanted him to have it. And Marge decides to go back to America and finish her book. Tom then meets Reeves, who gives him a passport in the name of Timothy Fanshawe. With this passport, he goes to the Western Union office and retrieves his copy of the Picasso. Time passes, and then Ravini receives a copy of Marge's travelogue book that she wrote. And he's looking through it when he sees in the dedication to Dickie the picture of the real Dickie that Ravini realizes he had seen on her table of photographs when he first questioned her, and that the man he's been speaking to is not Dickie. As for Tom, he is sitting in a chair, drinking wine, gazing at his Picasso, just like the other murderer did at the beginning of the episode. Wow, this is almost a whole movie in itself, just this one episode. A lot of stuff happens, a lot of twists and turns. I like Tom's anger at being called Tommy, because he's not one of these people. He's better, you know? And the cat and mouse, the clever way he disguises himself for the inspector, who seems so smart in some areas and yet misses some very obvious things, like the very same type of ashtray that he's using that was in the apartment that was supposedly Dickie's, and now Tom has the same kind of ashtray. That's a little suspicious. But it just right over his head. Not quite Columbo. Or what's the name of the one in Crime and Punishment? Petrovich, I think? Still Petrovich. Yeah, the whole thing with Marge was interesting. I liked his contemplating killing her and then deciding, nah, it's just one too many. And the utter vapidness of the hoi polloi that he then becomes a part of, only because they want to, in their bored lives, they want a little excitement by talking about a person who knew a real murderer. Ooh. You kind of sympathize with Tom and his feelings of disgust with these people. Very interesting character. I'm wondering if they're going to do another one of his books for another season. I'd like to see that. This has been a really good, intriguing cat and mouse kind of mystery thriller. And Tom is just a fascinating character, even though he does horrendous things. Somehow you always seem to end up on his side to a certain extent. I think it's because they're always showing these people through his viewpoint. And through his viewpoint, they are kind of undeserving and useless. Still doesn't mean he's not a monster, though. It's just a monster you can kind of understand. It's like that Chris Rock thing when he used to talk about OJ. You know, I don't agree with what he did, but I can understand. I think I said that in an earlier one, but yeah. So yeah, really good. Hopefully they get a second season, because I really enjoyed this. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.